with the latest in technology news and views. This is TechWrap The Podcast.
In TechWrap this week, Elon Musk and Tesla have made some significant changes to car purchasing from the company. Sales on mobile phones are down globally, but Apple's doing all right. A survey has actually revealed that tech workforces are finding a bit of a strain from working at home measures. And some malware developers are using a bit of a disguise in the way of video conferencing applications and antivirus tools as well to hide their software. Welcome to TechWrap. We're online at techwrap.net, mail at techwrap.net as well. Hello, Will.
Hey, Trent, how are you?
Very well. Very
Excellent.
well.
That was a very professional intro. It's almost like you have a background in radio or something.
Yeah, it might be something like that.
And all the latest news. A cat stuck up in a tree and 3 firemen came and rescued it. And those firemen also got stuck up in the tree and a little 12-year-old girl had to help them down.
Oh, we wouldn't be doing very well if that occurred, would we?
Good week. A little bit of a quiet week for me in sort of the tech headlines.
Yeah.
Last week was a bit sort of explosive, and we had the Apple launch and the iPhone 12, and we got into a very in-depth discussion all about it. So, I mean, if you missed out on that one, make sure you go back and check out episode 34, I believe it was last week. If you want to hear all the iPhone 12 launch news and our thoughts on it, go back and have a listen. But other than that, I think a few bits and pieces about the place. What caught your eye?
There is. Well, now that you've already sort of mentioned Apple and the iPhone, one of our points we can start straight on is the fact that, during quarter one of 2020, they have recorded, of course, global drops in sales. This has sort of continued over the last few months as well, generally down to COVID. But of course, Apple, we discussed iPhone 12 in the last edition. The press conference was held last week and orders opened up on Friday evening, 11 p.m. Our time in Australia. And surprisingly, despite COVID, the pre-orders were faring the best they had ever had in the last couple of years. So pre-order numbers are up on their previous year and previous model, given all of the options of handsets they've got available to them. Although, of course, it's 12 and 12 Pro at the time of pre-release sales, and then the other versions are coming behind in November as well. Apple always seems to have a bit of a cult following, although, there's a few of us Android users that are looking at it at the moment thinking, there really isn't all that much in the way of innovation in these new handsets, is there?
And it always feels that way when it's these incremental updates that you don't even notice. Like, when you're working out every day and you're trying to bulk up, and then you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, nothing's changed. And then you visit your friend and they're like, oh my God, you're so big. So I feel like when we always we see the new updates every year, we're like, oh, same. But I mean, if you compare it back to maybe 4 generations ago, you might see a bigger difference. And I think it could be people are just on that 2 to 3 year upgrade cycle, and they just timing it. Now it's hitting the 12, and people are due for an upgrade coming from maybe a iPhone 7 or an iPhone 8 or some of those pre-10 models. They're like, might be looking at the iPhone 12 now and go, this might actually be a nice little upgrade, and they might actually have a little bit of if you're lucky enough to keep your job during this period, and you're not going out, you're saving a little bit more money that you would have otherwise spent going out for meals and dinner and clubs and pubs and all that sort of stuff, barbecues with mates. You might have a little bit of money around that you might want to splurge out on a new iPhone, but they're the lucky few. I don't think that would make up for the majority of people, but an interesting stat to...
It is. So numbers-wise, they said that it was around about 800,000 units of iPhone 11 in the pre-sale last year, but a full weekend of pre-orders for Apple this year is looking, up to a figure of 2 million units.
Jesus,
so
what? It's
So
almost it's like 2.7 times or something the amount.
they've kind of increased just a little bit.
Yeah, wow, that's not even a little. That's like over double. That is quite significant. I wonder why. Why do you think that is?
Well, I can only think that there might have been the odd people, that have actually resisted to buy a model last time around. And given that there's lots of options in this new range, and there are camera improvements to this model compared with the iPhone 11. This could have been the one that people were jumping on. Like you said, people in Australia most commonly have the 24-month cycle. So there will be people who haven't bought one for a couple of years. And there's even people who hold on to a handset in some cases for about 5 years. So
Yes.
people could be making their choices finally. And especially if someone has been holding onto an Apple handset for about 5 years, it would be almost about time for that phone to stop receiving updates.
I hope they've also held on to their charging cable.
They've got the yeah.
Because the iPhone 12 doesn't come with a charging cable, so hold on to your cables.
Well, it comes with a cable, but
the charger, the wall plug or something.
But no wall plug, wall plug.
I hope they've held their wall plug. Same joke.
Yeah. If you want wireless charging, well, you got to do something about that as well. And with the wireless charging, I'll just sidetrack as well. Xiaomi reckon they can charge a phone within 15 minutes at the moment with their latest charging technology,
what phone?
which has got absolutely nothing on what is being released in the new model iPhone. It's looking towards an upcoming model at the moment. It's more of this is what we can do, and this is what we're going to do with some new models. But what a staggering figure. That is a lot of juice going through at such a quick rate. And I wonder whether it is actually really worth it when you consider how people usually charge their mobile phones at the moment.
Do you use wireless or do you generally cord?
I use a bit of both. So I have a wireless charger.
I also have a wireless charger. I have a stand-up one that I'm showing right now, and then I also have a flat circle one.
One's a flat one.
Yeah. I like this one because I can glance over and have notifications, and I can just look over to it, which is nice. But this thing is so slow. Yeah. Oh, my God. It takes 5 hours. I think I got a bad model that's not super fast charging or something, but I thought it was. It says fast wireless charging stand on the back. Even says fast charge on the front. I don't know if you can't.
Oh, I can see it, yes.
And it takes 5 hours. And I put it there, and I'm like, this is taking too long. And then I plug the cable in.
Did you buy it off eBay or something?
Yeah, it was, I think, from some dodgy place.
Oh, there you go.
I can't remember what. Maybe like Catch. It was like a Catch.com purchase.
Well, that was a catch of the day, wasn't it?
And people said they're like, watch out. I only got a slow one, even though they advertise a fast one. I think I got a slow one. I should have listened. Anyway, wireless charging.
Yeah, my wireless charging, I really only use it, if I was to leave the phone charging overnight, that's when I use wireless charging. When I'm charging in here, when I'm sitting here working away, it's via the fast charge cable. So it's usually something I leave on for, 10 or 15 minutes and add a bit of juice to the phone and that works all right. And I'm doing a lot of that lately rather than actually leaving the phone on charge overnight. Given the fact that one of my topics about a month ago was the fact that we're all charging our phones wrong. And leaving the phone on overnight is wrong, apparently.
But I thought our phone chargers have this smart controller and they don't overcharge it and it manages all the battery charging stuff. You know what I mean?
What this battery company said is the idea of charging it up to 100% is not perfect for the battery. It doesn't allow longevity in the battery cells. So I've been doing it wrong the whole time because that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, but no one's like standing next to their phone waiting for 95% and then unplugging it. You know what I mean?
No.
And that's why you buy new phones. If the batteries didn't start dying, you wouldn't need to buy a new phone. That's why they seal them in now and you can't just replace the battery like the good old days.
Oh, the good old days. Well, I haven't had to find myself in a situation where I've replaced a battery. So
I
I'm,
did for my
you know,
Note 4. I replaced the battery, and that's yeah. When I was going, I had that
mm,
for 4 generations before I got the Note. What is this? I don't even know what. Is this a Note 9? They all look the same. But I had the Note 4 for so
mm,
long, like 4 years maybe. And it just kept dying on me. It wouldn't even last a day or half a day of use. And then I ordered a new battery off eBay. It helped it a little bit, but it still
yeah.
wasn't great. It got me maybe another 12 months out of it before I bought a new phone. So it's interesting because the time that you would need to replace your battery is the same amount of time that you'd probably be looking at buying a new phone anyway. So it's like,
Yeah.
do you really need replaceable batteries? I don't think so. And you're
You
spending,
can you
the
can
money you
definitely
save
get
on
on
the
by
battery.
without them.
Yeah. And like, it's funny because you mentioned that people are coming more into iPhone 12. I try to think of the iPhone 11 and it's just not even in my memory. Like I'm sure we talked about it, but I don't even remember that launch even happening. It was like a
Yeah.
ghost. Was there even an iPhone 11?
There was.
Yeah,
There
see,
was.
that's the thing. Like people, they're like the iPhone 10 because it's a big landmark number, like 10. They're going to
Mm,
remember it and they go, oh my God, I got to get the 10 because it's the big new iPhone. And then they buy it and then the 11 comes out like, well, I just got the 10. I don't need the 11. But now the
mm.
12's come out, it's that 2 year, and they're like, oh, yeah, I'm about due for a
Oh,
new phone, so why not? And you know, the same thing I feel is happening with the Samsung Galaxy series, like the
yeah.
S20 and the Note 20 and the Ultra and whatever, they call them, those million different variants they have, only
Mm,
just sort of
mm.
came out, past 6 months earlier on in the year. Times are really weird at the moment because of
But they've
COVID,
been
but
staggering releases of their phones too.
and I think it makes it worse when they do stagger the Note release. And it was always a
Mm,
bit weird because they'd release the new S series in January, February, and generally it would come out March sort of thing. And then the Note would be announced like later on in the year and then come out there. And then you'd only have a few months and then the new S series would come out. And
yeah.
I think they should scrap that whole thing and make the Note just part of the S lineup. Just have them all come out at the same time.
Mm,
Small,
mm.
have your low end model of your like your S20, then you have your S20 Ultra, then you can have your S20 Note, and just release all three variants at the same time, and then you can pick which one you want. Why is that such a hard thing to do?
I always get the feeling that they think they're going to be able to sell more units by staggering them out to the potential audiences. But then, you've even got the crossover issues of if someone was on a contract and they wanted to go to another model phone, their contract could elapse before they get the new release because of this staggered release, or vice versa. They could find themselves in the situ where they're ready to get a new phone, but the contract hasn't finished if they're going to do that. Or they might just be smart, like I finally have after having contracts forever, and buy the phone outright, maybe. If you got the money, that is.
Yeah, and while we're talking about that S21s,
Mm,
I was going to save this for the quick head, but apparently Samsung Galaxy S21 and the Galaxy S21 Ultra, rumors, will
yeah.
arrive on Christmas or New Year's Eve. So,
Christmas
we're
or New
only,
Year's Eve.
yeah. So we're only, well, this is what the rumor is, but if that's true, we're only 2 months away from the S21 series.
Yeah.
And I feel like the S20 Note is still fresh in our minds. And no one who
Mm, mm.
bought that, or maybe there's the S20 FE now that's
Yep.
getting a lot of hype. So everyone would bought these. Why are they going to now buy? I feel like the S21 is going to be one of those missed models, like the iPhone 11, and we might see the S22 or the S30 or whatever they want to call it. Like it's all getting
Yeah.
a bit much, in my opinion. Like there's a lot of numbers to keep track of. There's a lot of letters at the end of those numbers to keep track of. We need to, it's getting a bit out of control, a bit out of hand. I think we need to go back to basics and simplify lineups. But that's just me.
I'm feeling like I don't believe this rumor.
Yeah, why is that?
It's too close to the last release. way
It
too
would have
close.
been the Note 20, right? Or the Note 20.
As a commercial company, you wouldn't commit such act where you're releasing another model phone within, 3 months of the last one, would you?
Well, let's find out. We got 2 months. We'll let you
We
know.
have.
Make sure you keep listening to the TechWrap podcast, and we'll see if the rumors are right or if the rumors are wrong come our first episode in January.
If we can love rumors or just
They generally
play
tend to
them
be
down.
pretty accurate with the leaks and the rumors when it comes to the Galaxy lineup.
Hmm.
They tend to be pretty spot on. Like, there's a lot of really credible leakers out there, and it's become practice now that we know all about the complete specs of the phone and what to expect even before the company's launch date, which is another issue. Oh, we'll find out. Phones, they're a crazy world, and they're just going to get crazier. I hope they get simpler, but love them or hate them, you got to have one, huh?
Like cars in most cases, unless you live in a city.
I got an
you
electric
find yourself
skateboard.
Well, if you have got that, I couldn't do an electric skateboard because it's a long ride
Yes.
to where I need to get to. So, because I'm in the country.
You need a
Joy.
Tesla.
Yeah, an electric Jesus. Although I can't afford one of those right now. Something about not having work at the moment, but that's all right. There's been a lot going on in the Tesla camp. That's why
As
we're bringing
always.
old mate Electric Jesus up again.
We love him, don't we? He's almost the mascot of the podcast.
Well, yeah, if you add up the amount of times we've talked about him in the last 3 or 4 months, yeah, there'd be a few mentions. So,
What's
but
he up to this time?
Making adjustments to the company.
As always.
There's been the conversations that there's been cuts in the media department, and from this, there is also conversations of adjustments to policies that they've once had. One such policy is anyone who is spending the vast amount of money that you do on an electric car like a Tesla has the ability or had the ability as a no questions asked offer to return the vehicle if they weren't quite satisfied with the idea of having the electric vehicle. But this has now been taken away. He was adamant back in 2019 that, if you were not satisfied, you could order it online initially in 2 minutes and return in 7 days for a full refund and everything would be rosy. But that's now gone. There's also a reduction in the amount of time that is offered in the way of warranties on used vehicles that you can obtain through the company. So they used to offer a 2 to 4 year warranty on used Model S and Model X's, and now that has been slashed as well. Not the only thing that's gone on. Another item of attention, a quiet adjustment to supercharging prices here in Australia. They've gone up by 23.8%. So the price is now 52 cents per kilowatt hour, which is a rise of 42 cents from where they were. So it's quite significant. And, they seem like minor changes on the outset, but they could have really big impacts to, that audience of car owners that are buying those electric vehicles.
So it was 42 cents before, now it's 50 something, is that right?
No, it's gone up by 42 cents.
That's huge. That's ridiculous.
Oh, hang on. No, I'm wrong here.
Okay, well, thank God, because my Tesla needs charging and I don't have the money.
42 to 52. So that's still 10 cents.
Yeah.
And when you think about it, when you add it all up,
yeah, it's
still unimpressive.
Very sneaky. But isn't there a thing where if you bought a Tesla or something, you get free supercharging for a certain amount of time, or how does that work?
That was the way it used to be, and there was plans that allowed some Tesla owners to have unlimited supercharging for the life of the vehicle as well. But newer vehicles are actually being charged, like they're not being friendly with allowing you to get free charging anymore. It's all about how much that can be made from the process, and given the size of the supercharging network and the amount of charging stations they usually install on average to some locations, I guess they're finally realizing that they need to recoup these costs in some way or another. I put the fine example of the closest supercharging network to me, which is over in Wodonga, which is around by the council's facilities, and there's more than 3 or 4 bays of these superchargers, and you would never see any more than maybe 2 people at these bays on average. So a number of units and not a number in the way of an audience to recoup costs on these ones.
Yeah, and especially in Australia where, we are traveling large distances and charges are few and far between, probably a lot more expensive to build them and then to, maintain them and keep them operational. But still, it's interesting because one of the biggest pulls to Tesla were free unlimited supercharging for the life of your vehicle, the really cool ability to return your Tesla within 7 days if you didn't like it, the cheap autopilot, and now it seems they're just scrapping that, increasing the price of the autopilot. They might release a model that's cheaper, which is cool, and I maybe it's becoming sort of preparing for that, but there's no reason why you still couldn't offer the higher end cars free supercharging and make everyone pay for the cheaper model cars. It's maybe they're just like, oh, we're so popular, we don't need to now be really flashy with our marketing. We don't need to, say, oh, free supercharging, come get a Tesla, it'll save you tons of money, or, if you don't like it, return it, because people want Teslas. Like, who doesn't want a Tesla? So, and the thing is, can't you just go to a Tesla dealer and arrange a test drive?
Yeah, you can do that.
I think if you're buying a Tesla, you're a bit of a fanboy. Probably not so much these days, where it's a little bit more mainstream. But I think most Tesla purchases, you need to know about electric vehicles and you need to know about Tesla, and you're appealed to it because of the knowledge you have around that sector. You're not going to buy a Tesla and go, oh, that wasn't as cool as I thought it would be. Like, it's going to be, it's going to be cool. That's why you want one. And then there's no way you get in one and then you drive it and then you think to return it. No way.
Yeah.
I've never been in a Tesla. Have you?
No.
I've heard amazing things though. And there's a dealer here in Melbourne, and I am tempted just to go for a test drive, just to drive one. Like, no intention of buying it. And I got an email the other week saying, because we're still in stage something or other, I don't even know, with stage 4, step 3.248B or
stage
something.
On lost.
God knows what the policy is at the minute. It's all very confusing. But I got an email from Tesla saying, come in for a free contactless test drive. And I was like, well, that's a cool idea. If I don't actually have to interact with the car salesman in any way, contactless, if I can just get up and jump in the Tesla, go for a drive, and then drop it off at the car dealership and not have to actually talk to them in person. That's the most ideal scenario to test drive a vehicle, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm very tempted.
Usually you get the awkward salesperson who sits next to you and makes sure you don't do anything stupid in their vehicle.
And also try to convince you to buy the car the whole time.
Yes, and do the hard sell on you before you walk out of the dealership so that you sign something that day. Yeah, I know all about that one. Well, just on the topic of the returns thing, I mean, it's not something you usually do even at a normal dealership when you've been buying petrol-powered vehicles.
Yeah, no, returning your car has never been a thing. So I think people are lucky to have it with the Tesla, and it's really not something you should miss or get angry about. You should just be grateful that it was even offered for a period of time. That's not really something you do. You test drive the car, that's perfectly fine. If you like it, you buy it. Like, you need 7 days to decide.
And on the note of charging networks in Australia, just if we sort of go further beyond Tesla, there are parts of the charging networks for other models of cars where you can get heavily discounted or even free charging in some cases. Like I note where I live here, there is an NRMA charger for vehicles other than Teslas. And if you're a member of the NRMA, you have free access to that charger. So that's there. There's several of them dotted along the Hume Highway towards Sydney as well. And of course, those ones are only in the state of New South Wales. But I've got a feeling that there's some other smaller networks in other parts of the country where you can, access these sort of services. And then if you're really short, there's, an avid community of electric vehicle users who allow you to plug in at their household.
Really?
Take advantage too. Yeah.
No way. You can just rock up with someone. Do you have to pay them, or they're just like, come on, have a charge, mate?
I can't remember the arrangement of whether you pay or not, but
That's hilarious.
There's certainly there's an online tool you can go to.
They accept donations. You don't have to pay, but a donation would be welcome.
Yeah, and if you find yourself in a bit of a rut, there are people who have a charger which they allow people to publicly use.
That's lovely, isn't it? I wonder how long that will last. Once they become a lot more popular, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry has one. They're like,
yeah, I'm sure it'll wane when one guy keeps getting people turning up all day, all night, wanting to use his charging facilities.
I wonder if there's a business model there that you could just advertise your house as a charging spot and actually charge for it.
Well, I have seen this sort of stuff go on through all of the video activity that I've looked at online about electric vehicles, and not just Tesla, mind you, just general electric vehicles.
There are other electric vehicles aside from Tesla? What?
Over in the US,
No.
that they have charging networks, companies that provide the payment services, and they often have units that are in all sorts of locations, not just your common in the shopping center or at the service station. They have them in apartment blocks and that sort of thing. So maybe there is a potential for being able to collect revenue by providing a facility nearby your house where you can allow people to charge if your area is where they might find themselves in a bit of a pickle, for instance.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of purchasing one of these chargers and setting up an electric charging business. I'll get back to you on that one.
Electric Jesus. There's always something new from that guy.
I'm excited for next week what we'll be talking about.
There's always something to surprise you. I'm wondering whether Starlink will come up again, the satellite thing, because there's been a lot of work going on about that.
You're subscribed to a newsletter with that, aren't you? Or a beta test or something?
I'm on the beta testing plan for when they start you running the services here in Australia, and it's getting closer because I've heard that the records for all of the base stations that they had with ACMA, they had some sort of third-party company name or something initially, and now they've just renamed them all and just indicated that Tesla is the holder of the titles, and it's going to be used for Starlink. So, I reckon maybe another 6 to 8 months, they might actually have something in place.
That's
and
exciting.
It'll be really interesting to see. It'll be really exciting. By then, NBN may have finally upped their game in what they're doing in wireless and even satellite technology. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. During this COVID time, of course, there's been more people working from home. You're in
Yes.
that boat.
I am.
You're working from home.
Full time.
And I know a few people who sort of flexi this with a couple of days at work as well. Those that aren't in Melbourne, mind you. Over in the US, a survey was put across groups of workers from tech companies. There was more than 40 tech companies that were surveyed, and over about 3,000 employees from these industries. And, many of these companies find themselves in key locations over in the US because there's, kind of technology hubs and whatnot. But people were delighted by the idea that they may be able to find themselves in other parts of the country where things are a lot cheaper, a lot more relaxing. But survey data coming from the survey by Blind, which is an anonymous workplace community app, is saying that they had a number of people indicate that they're more burnt out from working at home. The numbers were in the league of 74 to 76% of the people that were surveyed from some of these industries found themselves in this situation. They're having longer work days. It really stems back to the fact that people have got straight into this work from home arrangement without too much forethought, given the pandemic sort of, I guess, threw them underground. But people really are not mapping out how you should work when you're working from home. I mean, you need your inclusions for having a lunch break, and you need to be able to exercise as well. And these things aren't being factored in. People are just doing the work that they have to do, and dealing with, family members as well. Those that have got kids have got to deal with the strain of the kids interrupting them potentially as well. You have to manage what you're doing when you're in a work from home situation. I've certainly found that my little spot here, you can close the door and usually, put a pair of headphones on and tune out and get the stuff done. But you have to keep in the corner of your mind, or put a reminder on your phone or something, that you're going to have lunch at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, whichever one works best for you. And you're going to walk away from your computer and not actually just sit there and keep working away. And same goes for the end of the day. You can get so into what you're doing, and because you're comfortable at home, you'll forget the fact that 5 o'clock's come past. And if you're a 9 to 5er, you can find yourself still replying to emails and doing tasks well beyond what is asked of you as an employee. And you're going to find yourself in that situation where, if you are doing that regularly, you are going to be one of these people who are burnt out from it. Now, I very much love the work from home lifestyle, because if you put the right constraints in place, the idea of spending half an hour to get ready and then a commute and then you get into the working day, it's not there. So you can cut corners a bit. So you could do the old lazy trench and get out of bed with about 15 minutes to 9 o'clock and get a bowl of cereal going and get straight into your emails for the day. And you haven't had to do much fiddling around. And then once you clock off at 5 p.m., you can just go straight for a walk and take your mind off what's been going on for the day. And, you haven't had to think about all the things that you have to do to get to a workplace and to deal with the commute and all those other people around you and the distractions that you get in a workplace. I used to sit in a common space and you had people walking past all the time. And, I'm a reasonably friendly person, so I'd try and get everyone to talk as well.
Reasonably.
Reasonably.
Yeah.
So, that becomes a distraction. And then if someone's making noise in your space, that can be a worry too. So I really did like the time that I spent doing work from home. And, if there was an option out there for me to jump on a work from home job, I would highly consider it. But I've just found so far in my job searching game that usually, despite the fact it's a work from home role, people want you to be close to your place of employment, probably for the purpose of getting there if they if you need to be doing that a couple of days a week or whatever. But there could be some more flexibility in that. But having said that, these tech workers are just working too hard when they're working from home.
Yeah, but I think tech workers working in IT, they were always overworked, weren't they? You always see reports of tech companies, being long hours, and so I don't think it's too much of what they were doing before. But I think you're right in the fact that working from home in such at scale, at such a capacity that and then how quickly we transitioned into it, it's unprecedented, and there hasn't really been any roadmap on how to best do that and manage your work-life balance, how to structure your day, for optimal performance and also looking after yourself and mental health. So I think we've learned a lot in the past, 6 months or so, where the majority of Australia has been pretty much remote, at least in the major cities. Well, I know Victoria has been for quite some time. So I think there's going to be a lot of lessons learned in how to further optimize it, and I think people aren't confident in a full remote work role. I think there's always, just because it's never been done before, so I think there's always that thing, if we do need, we're open to flexible working arrangements, a certain amount of days per home, but it would still be nice to come into the office. So I know my workplace is looking at something like 3 days working from home, 2 days in the office, depending on your role.
I like that.
And it's great. But then to transition to fully working from home, you do feel quite disconnected, and it has been one of the biggest social issues, is that disconnection from your workmates. I really haven't been affected by it that much. You know a bit about my work history, and I was never in a communal area. I was locked away in a basement room and forced to edit all day. So, and only when I was lucky enough to have visitors come in would I have social interaction. So transitioning from that sort of workspace into now me locking myself into this room is actually an upgrade, because look, I have natural light coming in. Like,
you've got a window.
I had no windows in my previous workplace. Like even where I work now, I don't have any windows, but it's a big, large studio space. Like I work in the studio room where we do all the filming. So it's actually one of the biggest offices in the building, and it's essentially just me and a fellow editor in there. So we're quite, we have the whole studio to ourselves, so it feels really good and not crammed. And we can, it's just, I can tell him to be quiet, or I can put some headphones on and no one bothers us. So I've been lucky not to be, I don't know, lucky, maybe unlucky, depending on how you like it, but in that sort of open plan workspace, which is a bit distracting by having 5 people all around you talking and chatting or playing music or throwing things, or not really doing work, and you're trying to focus and do something. That could be challenging. But then to go from that to straight to home, and especially for those people that are used to that social interaction, are probably find it really hard on top of that management of your day. And as you were saying, it is important to remember to take your lunch break. And I think also it blurs because you can take a break at any time. It doesn't feel like you have a definitive 1 hour block. Like whenever I'm hungry, I can just go to the kitchen and grab a snack or a muesli bar, or make some cereal or some toast and then come back. So the amount of times I can do that, or go pat the dog, or walk out the backyard for a bit, like, is that accumulated to my lunch break, or do I get a lunch break on top of all these walkouts? Or because I have been doing all these walkouts, I haven't been able to get as much work done as I'd like to do. So I think it's that, and there's no one there to enforce that structure aside from you.
And that's where people fail it.
Yeah. And then I'm lucky as well, as I don't really have any other distractions. Like my partner's still working out and about, and I generally have the house to myself, no annoying kids to bother me or anything like that. So I'm pretty lucky, and I can't even imagine what it would be like if you're trying to get your work done and then you have kids running around the house bugging you, or other responsibilities. It would become extremely challenging, where before, you're going to work was your escape. And it's funny because I actually went into the building to do some filming, and there was someone in there in a department, and he didn't have to be there, and I was like, oh, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, I like being in here, nice, by myself, it's nice, peace and quiet. Meanwhile, like late last year, he just had like another kid, and he's got like 2 other kids at home, and so he's got this big family, and he's probably just gone into work to try and escape all that, get some peace and quiet. So there are people out there that just need that escape to get out from the whole working from home. Otherwise they would struggle even further. So it is definitely an interesting time. I've personally enjoyed it. I think it's good for the future. We spoke about this previously in earlier podcasts, talking about some of the potential negative consequences. I know, like, I have concerns about jobs moving overseas and taking roles away from Australia, especially in like the video production space that I'm in, where it would be so easy, even for myself, to go out and then like film something on location and then send it over to, I don't know, like Indonesia or something, or the Philippines, where they have
Yeah.
people that are probably fantastic editors, but their salary is, you don't have to pay them anything. So I could just send all my footage over there and get that done remotely cheaply and charge my clients as if, I was editing it here in Australia or spending my own time. So if I'm thinking that, there are surely other businesses out there thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
And like, that's what worries me, like the regulation of keeping jobs and not sending them overseas for just because it's cheaper to do so. That's my concern with the remote work. And that might also be why it's a bit, people are like hesitant to go full remote, because it is a bit scary, sort of scary territory, because you still want to be able to know who you're working with. And especially if you're out in the country and you're applying for a job in Sydney or Melbourne, which might be 400 kilometers away.
Yeah.
People don't feel like they, get to know you, or maybe if you have a manager that's in Melbourne or Sydney, maybe they don't feel like, they don't really know what's going on. They don't have that connection with you. They don't feel like they can control the work in the way they need to have oversight. So I feel like it's that sort of stuff that people are scared of.
That control. People are scared that they can't see exactly what you're up to, other than measuring what you've sent in completed, and don't know what you're doing when you're not sending completed content through.
I reckon there would be a good market here for like tracking software. So you log in and it tracks your day and what you've done. Yeah.
It's happening. It's happening in commercial systems. I also note as well, I know you said about offshoring, but I would hope that the trend is going the other way, given the fact that there seems to be, if you look at everything in a grand scale, in terms of like stuff that is being produced in Australia and being consumed in Australia, seems to be going up again. Because people have realised during times of COVID, where you can't get shipments into the country, there are actually some things that aren't too expensive that we can be making here that we can enjoy, because it's great fresh product. It's made just up the road, and it's not too far away from here. And also I noted as well, just in the call center league, because they had call centers down overseas, a few companies started getting call centers set up where they were in a work from home arrangement. They were doing it from their home office. And then they're realizing, well, actually, it's not too much of a cost to the company to do it this way. So why don't we do this with a few more of our roles? Because this is more cost effective than having people sit in an office. And the reason why we didn't have them sitting in an office doing this before was because we sent it offshore, because we thought that was cheaper. So I do hope we find some sort of fair balance in this sort of thing, and it does allow more employment. Like right now, it'd be a really good time for a lot more of this to go on. So there are people who are sitting at home with no job prospects, might have an opportunity to get back in, and especially the fact that a number of these people didn't choose their situation, and they're very qualified, but there's a lot of stuff going on that COVID has been a contributor to, that is making things hard for all, and changing some patterns in the way we do things might actually aid it a bit.
Yeah, look, I hope you're right. I really do. I hope you're right.
Deep and meaningful into a topic.
It always gets
not
a bit
tech.
deep when you talk about that whole working from home stuff, because there's a lot of, it's fascinating, and then there's a lot of sort of speculation you can have, and it's just interesting social commentary, I think.
It is. Let's go back to the tech stuff, though. We are forever battling malware in the world. Malware loves to, the developers of malware, they love to obtain details, personal information, so that they can take advantage of you online. A lot of it comes through software, and the latest to attack some Brazilians was a form of remote overlay software, they're calling it, which is basically been disguising itself as video conferencing applications. And during this work from home period, a lot more people using these applications, and a great way to target those potential people who could have their details taken and bank accounts cleaned out, or money weeded from accounts. It's, as always, a good reminder about being wary about what you're actually clicking and installing. And, when it comes to video conferencing, usually you'd have a conversation with someone that you're planning to have a meeting with. So you're going to know well ahead of, installing an application on your computer that's going to happen. The email address it's going to come from. So if you click the link, it's going to be a link and not a sus link. And, there's a common list of video conferencing apps people use these days, and they have a pretty clear detail on how to access them. So that, along with making sure you're keeping your passwords in order and not just letting a stale password or an incomplete password allow you to be exploited as well. It's a good consideration right now.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's easy to go, like, why wouldn't they just use Zoom or Microsoft Teams or Google Meet, or there's probably some other free ones, Discord or some other free ones. But I think it's because be careful of, I could see the appeal because people get frustrated with Zoom, and then you're limited to 40 minutes before it kicks you off and you have to pay for it, or you have to do the meeting. So, and then Microsoft Teams, it's very specific and you need to be Microsoft 360 and it's generally part of an organization. Google Meet, it's interesting because Google Meet, at least here in Australia, not many people are aware of the power of the video conferencing of Google meetings. It's great. I think it's amazing. But I talk to people like, oh, hey, do you want to set up a Google meeting or a Google Meet or a Google, I don't even know what to call it.
Google what?
Yeah. And they're like, oh, what is that? No, it's Zoom. And I'm like, no, it's like Zoom, but we don't need accounts. Like, I have a Google account. You have like, we can just quickly set up. The quality is really good. Let's do that. And then, it's weird. Anyway, so I can see people going into Google and being free video conferencing tool. And that's where it gets you. Anything that's trying to be like free with, no subscriptions, or have 50 people in your meeting, or quick sharing your meeting, and it will send a link to that other person to download the program. And then that, being the malware, could easily spread when you're trying to get away from the most well-known platforms, which there is reason to do because of limitations, and they're trying to get money out of you. And one thing I've actually noticed, which is interesting, and it's been across not only Zoom, but I know Netflix has had a declining subscription. I think their last results they released, their subscriptions have gone down. So I think it's everyone that would have signed up to Netflix has, and then there's no more need to keep signing up. And then with more people, maybe at least in Australia, not hoping to slowly get more outside, they're not watching as much Netflix, so they might lose a bit of revenue there. The same thing's happening, I think, with Zoom, or will happen with Zoom, as people start not using Zoom as much as at the height of the pandemic. And I've actually seen emails come in to say 50% off, like your Zoom subscription, or where before it was use Zoom, but you have to pay for it. You only get 40 minutes, and we pretty much forced to use Zoom. And now they're like, no, come back. Like, here, 50% off 2 months, and/or get a free trial, or get extended period, or refer a friend. So it's interesting to see the marketing change to try and get people to keep using Zoom, as people are probably using it less and discovering other platforms aside from Zoom. Because when it first came, it was like, Zoom, that's it. That's all anyone knew. That's all anyone was talking about. They had a great run, but now people are looking for alternatives. And now this is where you can get into trouble if you don't do your research and you don't pick a well-known, trusted source. Yeah, I mean, there's a very high chance, especially if it's from an untrusted website, or you'd never heard of it before. It could be
many
malware.
of the bundled services that we might have had access to, but were terribly difficult to use, like Teams, for instance. They're making major improvements to what they're doing, and the fact that if you've got a reasonable subscription in your workplace for Office 365, all of that stuff is bundled in, so there's no need to go and use those external services. As long as you're aware, it's the real deal, though. That's the fundamental in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So watch out what you download. As always, any application, you should always
watch out when you download, because there is always some sneak. There's always some snark looking at a way of getting access to your system. It can be in all sorts of tools. We during the time of IT support services that I did in my past, the amount of people who would come in who had installed all these third-party antivirus spyware tools, which would just literally malware themselves and just causing terrible trouble to their computer. Oh, and remember the days of when you could have toolbars in Internet Explorer? You'd get people coming in and there'd be like a dozen toolbars in the browser window. And they'd be like, oh, I can't stop all this stuff going on. It's like, don't install toolbars.
Yeah. I see you have one little topic about TikTok there, but I think that should fall into our next segment, where sometimes, we like to delve into the bigger topics and go deep and unpack them and spend 10 minutes talking about them, and sometimes we get a bit carried away, like working from home. But other times there are tech headlines that come out where the news story is essentially just in the headline and there's not much more to the story or not much more to talk about. It's just like, oh yeah. Okay, cool. And that's it. And it's a little segment we have here on the podcast called Quick Headlines. These are the quick headlines. These are the quick technology headlines of the week. Geddes, give me some quick headlines. Yeah. So, quick headlines. So this is the first one, and this is a perfect example of a quick headline. If somebody asked you, what's that segment you do on the podcast called Quick Head? And this is an example you'd use. So I don't know if you noticed recently, but Google changed their Gmail logo.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's like a little colorful M instead of before it was a G. Now it's like a little colorful M.
And it was like a mailbox icon, wasn't it?
Yeah, like on the top of your browser, like on your tab, and then the top left logo where it says Gmail, it's like an M, blue, red, orange, yellow, green, M. Have a look.
I hadn't noted that.
Yeah, there
That's
you go.
A quick hit.
Yeah, so I mean, there's nothing more to that. It's just they changed their logo for Gmail. Cool. That's it. That's the end of the quick headline. There you go. Perfect example. If anyone asks you, feel free to use that as an example for quick headline. So here's one to sort of follow on what we were talking before about, where I just quickly mentioned about sort of Netflix and their numbers and declining a little bit. But this is the headline. Netflix is experimentally giving an entire country 2 days of Netflix for free. And that country is India.
India?
Yeah. So before they had the 14-day free trial, which I just had a look then, and I saw a report saying that they're no longer doing free trials. And I just logged on to netflix.com.au, and there's nowhere where it says 14-day free trial. So this is another sneaky change, just like Tesla were doing, where they've upped their rates or they've took away their return policy. I didn't see anything about this. It's just Netflix and no longer offering 14-day trials. They'll probably still offer it as like a marketing thing. It's not like an ongoing, always there thing. So I think they're replacing it as like 2 days of the whole library for free, but how's that any different to a 14-day free trial? But I guess we'll see how it goes.
It gives those who might have had some sort of subscription or a previous free trial an opportunity to whet their enticement to sign up again, maybe. But a bit like what Foxtel used to do with satellite services to try and get you to put all the extra channels on. They go, oh, have 2 free weeks of the entertainment pack. It's on us. And try and get you to sign up like another $15 to make that plan ludicrously ridiculous, which no one does anymore. Foxtel is diving because they just don't understand the idea of it's 2020 and people want stuff now and they don't want to pay the earth for it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So US Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez played...
Who's she when she's at home?
Oh, look, I'm not too sure who she is. But the headline that got me is she logged on to twitch.tv, famous game streaming website.
Oh, you're streaming. People do games and do all sorts of other stuff, don't they?
Yeah, and there's a really popular game going around at the moment called Among Us. And she logged on and she got an audience of 400,000 people watching her.
Ooh.
And she played that for about 3.5 hours and then encouraged everyone to get out there and vote. So...
That's one way to get to your audience.
Interesting tactic, because I imagine a lot of those people were under 18 and probably not from America, because people watch from all over the world. So
Yeah.
I mean, hey, it drew headlines and it got it out there. So I mean,
Well, we're
accessible.
talking about it now. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it worked. Well done. Well played. Well played. And this is the final one for me before you can end on your one, which is really interesting. PayPal let you buy and sell cryptocurrencies in the US.
Ooh.
They're working on rolling out that. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin will be rolled out first, and then using PayPal, they have a partner on the back end called Paxos, where all the transactions happen. But you can use PayPal, purchase some Bitcoin, load it into your wallet, and then you could probably sell it, hold it there. And I think the plan is next year, 2021, mid-late year, who know, mid to late next year, you could potentially buy things with your Bitcoin through PayPal. So interesting, but also defeats kind of the purpose of Bitcoin being an anonymous thing. So once you put your PayPal account to it, like how is that any different than just using cash, because you're able to track? Before you could buy something with Bitcoin, no one didn't know who you are. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. People probably used it to, on the dark web for a lot of malicious things with it. But it's interesting to see them try to bring it more into sort of the mainstream. So it'll be interesting to see what that effect will have on the price of Bitcoin. But interesting, no?
And I get the feeling that some banks won't be impressed by the look of that as well, because there's been banks where people have been able to transact money into Bitcoin, and it's cutting them out of the market if someone like PayPal jumps in as well. It'd be funny if you got a bit of a dispute going on about Bitcoin transactions with PayPal.
I guess
given how they handle all the cash ones.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it works. And I guess so only in America, not in Australia. So if all goes well, probably for the whole of next year, maybe we'd see it rolled out quickly after that.
Yeah.
Maybe we won't. Maybe it'll be a disaster, but it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And, we'll make sure we'll keep you updated on the progress. All right, what's yours? I'm very excited.
This is TikTok. We've talked about TikTok a bit lately.
TikTok and Triller and Biller and SnapBlue and Gojis and Booberries.
What?
These are all, upcoming video app platforms.
If they catch on, TikTok's been catching on though, getting a lot of attention from, both average punters and even the musicians from Fleetwood Mac. A bloke put a spin on a classic Fleetwood Mac track. It's just the thing he does. He skates around and has one of the songs in the background and does something in his video. And he's managed to get 60 million views. He's got himself a sponsorship out of the whole deal, and he got a couple of the original band members to do their own take on it as well. And it's made a track that was released in 1977, a top 10 hit in several countries again. And the album is even charting again, which, that's a long time between release time and a rechart.
It's incredible, isn't it? The power of some of these platforms, because the demographic of the people on these platforms is so towards the lower end of the age bracket. They were probably born well after this song came out. It wouldn't even be in their recent memory, and they listen to it and their minds get blown, and then it has a resurgence. Because that is the telltale sign of a quality song. I don't think you'll have that in 20 years from now. People will be bringing up like a Kesha song and go, oh my God, that's such a good song. No, it's rubbish. Rubbish. You know what I mean? But back in the day, they made quality, good, actual songs with lyrics that meant something and had heart to them. Geez, I sound old, don't I?
You're not.
But it's true. Like, you listen to any song that comes out now, it's just garbage. Like,
not any trash song, but there is a lot of garbage.
Name one good song that came out in the past 3 years.
Oh, put me on the spot.
Can't do it.
I haven't
there
got
are none. There are none. They're all forgettable, except that Taylor Swift song, "Shake It Off." I love that song. And then "Happy" as well.
You had bloody Hanson on your mind last week.
Yeah, that was great. No, there's been some good songs. What was that Daft Punk one? "Get Lucky."
Oh yeah, "Get Lucky."
That was a great song.
Pharrell Williams.
Yeah, that was a great song. Bloody great song, that one. There have been some good songs, but you know what I mean. And do you know what's an interesting one that actually came up is I don't know if you saw it, but there was like a YouTube reaction video to Phil Collins' In the Air Tonight, done by people that apparently had never heard it before. And then that reaction video got, 20, 30 million views or something. And then there was a resurgence of that Phil Collins song.
And it's happened in Australia too with In Excess. They put together, one of the production companies put together a telly movie, and people go, oh shit, In Excess was good. And so then they arrive back on the top 10 charts for something they released 20 years ago, and it's new again.
Queen as well, when they released Bohemian Rhapsody as well, the movie.
Yeah. Quality material, quality songs stand the test of time. And
it's some Bob Dylan stuff to come back.
We could be the Game Changers. We could jump on TikTok and produce tracks.
We'll just find that's actually an idea for a channel. It's just like really old school epic songs, and then we I don't know what we do to it. Do we dance, or do we just sit there listening to it?
Out. Do something fascinating, and
no, we just sit. Oh, so we have to do something. All right, we'll figure that out for next week. We'll let you know how it goes. That's it for quick headlines,
and that is wrapping up Tech Wrap for another week. It's been good to talk technology. You can continue to have conversations with us. You can send us interesting things that you might like us to talk about. Mail at techwrap.net. We're on techwrap.net. And of course, you can get the podcast in all forms. We're across a lot of the platforms. Like I always say, the easiest to use one that I use, because I find myself streaming music all the time, is Spotify. So I can literally, instead of searching for a song, I can just search for Tech Wrap, and I can find the podcast and listen and subscribe and all that sort of thing.
And if you want to watch us, you can jump on YouTube and search Tech Wrap.
You can do that as well. And you can have a look back at all the videos there. The video thing has been something new for me. Being a media person on the radio, I like to be behind the scenes. But
it's the way it's going.
On the camera, so it's all good. And right now I'm waving to the camera just because I can. So
then you get to see fun things like my wireless charger.
Oh. I don't know what to do with you. That's it for Tech Wrap for another week. We will catch you next week online at techwrap.net.
With the latest in technology news and views, this is Tech Wrap, the podcast.